Hello YouTube and welcome to GrunfWorks. Today we have a special episode for you, for all my Naval Action fans, and we will be showing manual sailing by using the actual tool that the sailors of that time were using. This comes from Instituto Nautico di Trieste, Biblioteca 1930, which have been graciously borrowed to me by a friend, Zeljko Skomersic, whose ships I have shown in the previous video. He is also enthusiast miniature ship builder, and I encourage you to view his video and also visit his website that I'm going to put in the link below. Now let's show a little bit this. This is a beautiful piece of work written in older English. It's really entertaining, and this guide, I will post the pictures of it for you to read, but it explains the main points of sail in the mariner's compass, which means we have a total of 360 degrees in the compass. Now, in the time of the age of sail, the 360 degrees were divided by 32 points, meaning there were total of 11 degrees and 15 minutes per point. So, the points, there were 360 degrees divided in 32 points, which means 11 degrees, 15 minutes was the angle between the 2 points. The names of the points were simple. First you had north by east. That meant 11 degrees 15 minutes towards east. Northeast, which is 22 degrees 30 points. Northeast by north, which is 33 degrees 45 points and onwards. Northeast, northeast by east, east-northeast, east by north, east, and then onwards east by south, east-southeast, southeast by east, southeast, southeast by south, south-southeast, south by east, and south. So these, as you can see, those were points illustrated by on the compass. Now let's go onwards to the manual sailing. In the interest of keeping this tutorial rather brief but understandable, let's start by imagining the easiest situation. You have the wind blowing from the south towards north, and you are now basically sailing with the wind. So you're going down with the wind. Okay? Now, let's talk manual sails. What I want you to think is, like as the wind is blowing through your sails, think that the wind is also pushing either your bow or your stern, either on the port side or the starboard side. What does this mean? Let's say that you are running with the wind and that you want to turn, let's say, towards east, means to your starboard side. So, what do you want to do? You want the wind to push one part of your ship in the desired direction, so it gets turned towards east. If you think about it, first you will be setting your rudder. Right. Now, since this part is already furthest from the wind, only middle of the ship and actually the ship's stern can be pushed somewhere. So, if you turn your foremast, which is like this, so it doesn't, you turn it a little bit towards the wind, so it's not that much affected by the wind, and you turn, as you start to turn, so that the wind will no longer affect your bow, but it will be affecting your stern, and then you want to turn your sails to help it even further. Now the wind will be pushing even with a greater force from the south, and it will be pushing your stern because it's using these two sails. So as it is pushing your stern, it's turning your bow to the east, right? So when you come to this, you also have to be careful as you turn. You want to keep your foremast into the wind so that it's not being affected by the wind. Now when you come to your desired heading, you simply turn your foremast also so it catches the wind, and then you continue on your merry way. The same rule applies when you want to go in the opposite direction. Now this time you want the wind to be pushing your bow rather than your stern. So what do? You turn the sails, the main mast and the mizzen mast, so it's no longer affected by the sail, and obviously you correct the rudder, because as you're passing this, the rudder will be turning in this direction. So the more you turn into this direction, the more and more your bow will be turned down with the wind. And then you want to keep your direction as is, and you will once again end up running with the wind. And if you want to continue down that path, then what you want to be doing is basically then once again turning main mast and the mizzen mast so that your stern starts to be pushed now in the other side. And so always consider which part of your ship do you want the wind to be pushing, and where, which will result in your heading which you want. Now let's consider the second option. Let's say that the wind is blowing from the north, and if the wind is blowing from the north, that you are tacking into the wind, so you're trying to go left, right, and go into the wind, against the wind basically. But in a sailing ship you cannot go straight into the wind, but you have to zigzag, which is called tacking. Now let's say that you are tacking with your port side, which is your ship's left side, and that you're going into the wind. And what you want to do, you want to turn and go and tacking with the starboard side. So you want to turn your ship around from going this to the other side, and for some reason you want to be turning into the wind. So the wind is coming from the north. So what do? You obviously turn your rudder. Then you want the wind, which is blowing from the north, to be pushing your stern as far as possible, which will result in your bow turning into the wind. So how do you do that? You first turn your foremast into the wind so that it doesn't get affected, and then you flip your main and mizzen mast like this, so that the wind is hitting their forward side, and in thus pushing your stern as far from the wind as possible. Now, what happens when you go straight into the wind? Then what happens is, since then you turn your foremast like this, so that the wind starts pushing your bow towards the west. And obviously, since you're turning, your main and mizzen mast will be more and more turned to the wind, so they will be less and less affected, while the foremast will be more and more affected, thus turning you in the desired heading. When you come to the heading that you want to continue, let's say west by north or west northwest, you straight up the rudder, and then you just turn the foremast to be parallel to the others. So this is basically how you turn into the wind. If, let's go back to the previous situation, if the sea is rough, or that you want to maintain your speed while you're still sailing as you were before, like this, you still want to turn into the same direction, and you want to be ended up in the west-northwest, but you don't want to lose too much speed. What do? This is a maneuver called come about, where you actually turn your main and the mizzen mast into the wind and you turn the opposite direction. So the wind will be blowing here and thus turning your ship first to the south, and then as you continue to turn your main mizzen mast so that you're continuing due south, pick up a little bit of speed, and as you're continuing to turn, once again you turn your foremast into the wind, main and mizzen mast, so that the wind catches them, and the wind will be pushing your stern back, which will result in you coming in the direction you want. The moment you come, you just flip your foremast and boom, you are going into the right direction, and obviously you correct your rudder. So I hope this is, I have simplified a few things for you. If I didn't, let me know in the comments below. I will see if I will in a future video post this with an overlay of me sailing in a ship. But for now, thank you very much guys for watching. This is GrunfWorks signing off.